Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today. I find it interesting how many of Black Lives Matter's members and many of the woke leftists who support them will go out and make efforts to tear down statues of Confederate soldiers, people like Christopher Columbus, and American forefathers like George Washington, and people who fought in the Civil War for black people like Ulysses S. Grant. But we won't see any campaign by these members of Black Lives Matter or these woke leftists who support them to get the website Ghetto Gaggers taken down. Now, your Ghetto Gaggers is a pornographic website which features white men abusing black women in the course of their sexual acts, doing things like slapping these black women, calling these black women B words, calling them racial slurs like the N-word, spitting on them, urinating on them, and making them sit in their own filth. But there is no effort by your Black Lives Matter or any of the woke leftists to make an effort to get this clearly degrading website taken down, or an effort to get this website taken off servers in the United States. And again, I find it quite interesting that your Black Lives Matter and your woke leftists, they will go out here and march and campaign against corporate characters like your Aunt Jemima, your Uncle Ben, and other characters out here who they deem racist. But none of these Black Lives Matter supporters or these woke leftists will go out here and wage any sort of campaign against your Ghetto Gaggers. And I find that quite interesting because all of the law is all in their favor if they were to go on a campaign against your Ghetto Gaggers, because all your Black Lives Matter would have to do is go out here and use one of their protests to go out here and put pressure on the FCC as related to the obscenity laws of these United States, and use that pressure to get this website taken down based on what many would call the community standards as related to the law here in the United States. And if Black Lives Matter and their woke leftists were truly genuine, they would have no problem waging that campaign, because they would be able to say, okay, if we value black life and we want to fight against racist images like the ones they say Aunt Jemima was, Uncle Ben was, the cream of wheat man was, then they could go after a website which clearly gives us a racist depiction of black women being sexually objectified, sexually degraded, and being verbally and physically abused, and being called racial slurs and racial epithets. This is what something you would think that the woke types and the members of Black Lives Matter would wage a campaign for, but strangely, your Black Lives Matter and their woke leftists who support them are eerily silent on this Ghetto Gaggers website as related to going to the government, as related to the obscenity laws in these United States. Moreover, you would also think that your Black Lives Matter and the woke leftists would be out here trying to also rail against this website Ghetto Gaggers as related to the host servers and the companies that run these host servers, because according to the standards of many of these websites, they say that they don't support hate speech. And your Ghetto Gaggers falls right in line as related to the so-called standards for hate speech that many of these websites have as related to hosting. They don't want to host people like your Alex Jones on the foundation of hate speech. However, it seems that these websites give a pass to Ghetto Gaggers, even though this website goes out of its way to go out here and feature these white racists slapping black women, again, spitting on black women, calling them the N-word, and abusing these black women. This is not what anyone would consider anything as related to creating so-called pornography. This is clearly obscene and, again, violates the community guidelines and the standards and stipulations that many web hosts have as related to presenting content on their platform. And again, you would think that with all of this organization that Black Lives Matter has, that this would be part of their agenda, showing the value of black life by trying to protect the image of the black woman and trying to preserve a standard for the image of the black woman. Because if black life doesn't matter to the black woman, then how can she advocate for trying to preserve the lives of black men like Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and George Floyd if she won't make an effort to try to protect and preserve her own image and show that her life matters? And again, you would think again that this group run by 3 black women would be waging a campaign now that they have the entire support of the entire world with them and have gotten major corporations like your Quaker Oats and many of these other companies to either remove mascots like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. Again, companies that are worth billions of dollars, but none of these people are going to make an effort to go against a low-tier, bottom-feeding website that degrades the image of the black woman. Again, we would think with all of this support from all of these woke leftists, there would be a campaign to get this website that degrades the image of the black woman shut down. But we get this eerie silence as related to this Ghetto Gaggers website, and we get this eerie silence as related to dealing with this website, but we get all of this, again, loud noise as related to tearing down American monuments, all of this effort to tear down statues, but no effort to get a website taken down that tears down the image of black women and promotes racism and racial hatred of black women and shows the active participation of black women in participating in these sexual acts which border on sexual violence. We don't see any black women going out to fight against this website, again, showing us in some ways the selective outrage of the people behind Black Lives Matter and their woke far left supporters. They're all complicit in being silent about a website that shows how little value black life has, that a black woman will lower herself to the point where she will degrade her own self and sit there and believe that being degraded is perfectly fine and being called an N-word and a B-word is perfectly fine. But we won't see anybody going out here to talk about how black life matters. And again, it's quite troubling because, again, the black woman is the first teacher of culture to young black boys and young black girls. And you would think she would teach a message to her son and her daughter by going out here and advocating to campaign to get this website taken off of servers and to get this obscene content out of people's minds. Because while these same people want to erase America's history as related to Confederate statues and want to erase the history as related to many of our American founding fathers like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and people like Christopher Columbus, and people who advocated for black people like Ulysses S. Grant, they want to tear down their statues, but they want to leave a racist website that degrades black women intact. And again, that shows the complete hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter and how their emotional focus on these statues shows how they are completely clueless as related to what we need to fight for in an agenda. When it comes down to these statues, they are these icons that they consider racist that need to be torn down. But this Ghetto Gaggers website, they have no problem with it. And again, it just shows me how they don't really understand white supremacy, because you're going to give a pass to a white supremacist website that promotes the degradation of black women, but you're going to go on to tear down the statues of white men who were out here and were a part of history. I say when it comes down to that, you can't say you're going to leave one and then give a pass to the other, because if you're going to go out here and and participate in something as meaningless as tearing down a statue, that doesn't really help black people in the long run, because those people are long dead. But if you really want to show how you value black life and how black life matters to you, then you're going to try to go out here and take down a website that actively and willfully, with malice of forethought, degrades the image of the black woman, and you're going to make an effort to get that taken down because you want to show how much black life matters to you. Unfortunately, black life doesn't matter to many of our black women, and many of our black women, they sit there and say to themselves they would rather be on this website while they're marching and protesting against a statue in the corner of the square of their city. They'll sit there and march and protest and make efforts to get that statue taken down, but they'll leave a website up where they are called the N-word on a regular basis. And then when you speak out against this website, they want to go out here and speak against you. And that's the most troubling thing I ran into when I did the previous videos when I was talking about trying to get this Ghetto Gaggers website taken down. Some of these same black women and even some of these black men were sitting there thinking that this was perfectly okay. And again, showing me how deep the self-hatred goes. Because again, if a black life mattered to you, then you're going to stand up against things that degrade the quality of black life, and you're going to stand up against content that is presented that degrades the black people and presents these disturbing and, again, violent images against black people. Because what's in a Ghetto Gaggers scene is no different than what we saw happen during slavery. And if you want to take down the statues of the so-called racist slave masters, then you have to also deal with the modern people who participate in the same behavior as the slave masters. Again, things that we, the woke types, oftentimes say are considered to be obscene, because your woke types, they have no problem getting a movie like Gone with the Wind taken off of a platform like HBO Max, but that same platform has Monsters Ball on there, and your Monsters Ball has the exact same type of imagery that is in your Ghetto Gaggers. Again, showing the hypocrisy of your Black Lives Matter and your woke types. They say they're like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They want to cancel one thing, but then they leave another. Again, showing us how they strain at the gnat of statues, but then they swallow the camel of Ghetto Gaggers and movies like your Monsters Ball and your Precious, and give those types of content that devalue black life a pass. Because again, as I see it, black life does not matter to Black Lives Matter. Black life doesn't matter for them unless a black man is dead, and then they want to step on the casket of that black man towards pushing their agendas as related to the alphabet and as related to single motherhood, and creating a new welfare state, a welfare state designed to destroy black life. So your Black Lives Matter, as I see it, is disingenuous, because when you look at their agenda, it's filled with empty symbolism, things that don't matter to black people, because if they were serious about showing how much black life mattered, again, their platform would be pushing to use all of the momentum they had with the murder of George Floyd towards constructive actions in black communities, to doing things like promoting black fathers coming back to the black community, building up the black community by promoting and investing in black men, and promoting an agenda where black men would return to the leadership positions, and they would be pushing agendas to elevate the black woman by doing things like getting websites, toxic websites like Ghetto, Gaggers taken down. That would all be a part of an agenda of a Black Lives Matter organization that really cared about black men and black women, and that would be the platform of a Black Lives Matter campaign that showed the true value of black life. Moreover, they would be talking about doing things about all of these shootings in black communities, trying to educate young black men and black women to the value of black life. And these are things that are not done because, well, again, Black Lives Matter is not an organization made by black people for black people, and it's not about empowering black people. It's all about getting these woke types to go push their agenda at black people's expense, because, again, I find it interesting. They're silent about this Ghetto Gaggers website, and if you could get all of these corporations like Quaker and many of these other corporations to get rid of Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, and get Hollywood to get white actors to stop playing the voices of characters like Cleveland Brown, then why can't you get this obscene website shut down? A website that clearly violates many of the community standards and the guidelines for hate speech, and promotes hate speech against black women and hate speech against black people. You would think you would be able to go and get that done in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, but we clearly see that there is no serious effort for change as related to Black Lives Matter, and that every one of their gestures and the gestures of their far-left supporters is nothing more than empty symbolism, because they want to take down the statue of an old white supremacist, but they don't want to do anything about modern-day white supremacy and modern-day racism like what's promoted on your Ghetto Gaggers website. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to try some of my books, you can head over to Amazon.com to pick up some of my titles. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.